Welcome to The Explainer. We're jumping right into something absolutely crucial today. We're talking about human consciousness, mental exhaustion, and how to actually conserve our internal energy for true transformation. And right off the bat, I want to give a massive shout out to Sachin Karnik, who researched all the incredible material we'll be diving into today. So let's get into it.
Okay, so here's the million-dollar question. Why is our mind constantly exhausted? I mean, think about it. Despite our absolute best efforts, the planners, the morning routines, the endless wellness hacks, we universally experience this deep, persistent mental burnout. We're constantly overwhelmed, constantly drained. It's like having a bunch of background apps running on your smartphone, just secretly eating away at your battery life all day. Well, we're going to figure out exactly why that happens, and more importantly, how to stop it for good.
Section 1. The Global Crisis Within. The individual is the world. You know, we look around at the world today, and it feels like it's rapidly disintegrating, right? It's full of conflict, chaos, and division. And our instinct is to try and fix it from the outside in, with new laws, blueprints, or systemic tweaks. But this philosophy totally flips the script. There's a profound saying, what you are, the world is. So the chaos out there, it's literally just a mirror reflecting the chaos in here. Superficial outward changes just aren't going to cut it. If we want a real revolution, it absolutely must begin with a radical inner transformation of the individual, us. Section 2. The Illusion of Control. Treating ourselves like machines.
Here's the thing. We are living, breathing life, not mechanical machines built to tick along at a perfect, predictable rhythm. But man, do we treat ourselves like machines. We rely heavily on what researchers call forced control. What does that look like? Well, it's building massive walls of resistance. It's imposing insanely strict disciplines on ourselves. Forcing yourself up at 5 a.m. to biohack your way to inner peace. It's repressing emotions we don't want to deal with because we're terrified of failure, and constantly chasing this projected, impossible ideal of who we think we should be. We're basically trying to strong-arm the mind into silence. But ironically, that forced control just pours gasoline on our anxiety. It turns our own head into a battlefield.
Moving on to Section 3, the drain of inner conflict. Where does the energy go? So, let's go back to that smartphone battery metaphor. Your psychological energy is draining insanely fast because it's forced to power all these competing inner systems at the exact same time. Think about the breakdown. A whopping 30% goes to endless repetitive thinking, those imaginary arguments and movies playing on a loop in our heads. Then 25% is eaten up by self-criticism, and another 25% goes to actively suppressing the very emotions we're criticizing. The rest, that's just pure inner argument. One part of you feels something, another part condemns it, and a third part is trying to analyze why you can't just suppress it better. The mind is constantly splintering and fighting itself, and that consumes a monumental amount of energy.
To really understand where all this energy is leaking, we can look at Sachin Karnik's framework of the psychological self. It breaks down into 5 key elements: thoughts, emotions, memories, desires, and core energy. Together, these dimensions make up the entire machinery of what we call the psychological self. This right here is the exact system where our internal energy either flows beautifully and freely or gets severely blocked and bottlenecked by all that forced control and inner friction we were just talking about.
Section 4. The Power of Awareness. Ending the psychological division. So, what's the actual solution? It's a state called choiceless awareness. Now, that might sound a bit abstract, but it's really just a state of alert, passive watchfulness. The absolute key phrase here is doing this without identification, condemnation, or resistance. So when an emotion like anger or sadness pops up, you don't fight it. You don't label it as bad or try to discipline it out of existence. You just intensely, passively watch it. You completely drop the whole forced control act. And when you finally do that, you hit this massive, profound realization: the observer is the observed. Let that sink in for a second. The entity inside your head that's trying so hard to control your anger, that's actually just another fragment of your exact same conditioned mind. The controller is the controlled. When you realize that the observer and the observed are literally the exact same thing, well, the whole artificial division in your mind just collapses. You suddenly realize there's absolutely no one to fight. Because of this breakthrough, we discover something amazing. The mind becomes quiet, not because it was wrestled and forced into silence, but because the entity that was creating all that division has finally been understood. True psychological freedom doesn't come from finally winning the war inside your head. It comes from waking up and realizing the war is a total illusion.
When the mind simply stops fighting itself, natural order just effortlessly returns.
Section 5. Conserving your internal energy. The rise of natural quietness.
This sets up a really sharp contrast between two totally different ways of living. Over on one side, you have the exhausting old paradigm of forced control. It demands immense effort, constant suppression, deep psychological division, and constraint. Frankly, it's exhausting. But on the other side, you have the revitalizing new paradigm of natural quietness. This is characterized by stillness, pure observation, an undivided mind, and actual, true psychological freedom. You're no longer trying to dominate yourself. You are just simply, purely aware. And when you start living in that state of natural quietness, guess how much energy is wasted on inner conflict? Zero. None. When the observer is understood to be the exact same thing as the observed, those competing centers in your mind completely lose their authority. You stop spending all your precious energy maintaining that artificial, exhausting inner divide.
And the immediate result? The battery recharges. All that energy that was previously burned up by inner arguments, by guilt, by the exhausting fear of failure, it's suddenly released. Dropping that internal resistance literally plugs the leak. You conserve a massive amount of psychological energy. And out of nowhere, you have this incredible capacity for true focus and learning that you probably thought you had lost years ago.
Section 6. The radical transformation, the catalyst for true change. It really is a beautiful sequential roadmap when you lay it out. Step 1, pure choiceless observation naturally leads to Step 2, the end of our inner division. Because the mind stops fighting itself, we move to Step 3, conserving massive amounts of internal energy. And it is that specific, undistorted, conserved energy that acts as the direct catalyst for Step 4, radical transformation. It completely renews the mind from the inside out. In this new state, when the mind is completely still, its accumulated contents just stop producing fragmentation. This conserved energy brings about a totally different kind of consciousness. We're talking about a dimension the mind has never truly encountered before. One that is fresh, completely silent, highly intelligent, and capable of seeing reality exactly as it is, without the heavy distortion of all our past conditioning. So, the absolute crucial takeaway here is this. True self-mastery is simply the ending of the division. That's it. It's not about the controller finally scoring a victory over the controlled. It has absolutely nothing to do with finally dominating your bad habits or successfully suppressing your anxiety. True self-mastery is achieving a state of complete, undivided presence where the mind is whole, perfectly silent, and naturally ordered. Which leaves us with this final, truly provocative thought to take away from our explainer today. If you stopped fighting your own mind right now, if you just dropped the resistance entirely and simply observed with choiceless awareness, what could you create with all that reclaimed energy? Because make no mistake, the transformation of the entire world begins exactly right there.